Hi and welcome back to my channel. In today's video you have my Q3 book haul. So what I'm going to do for this, because I want to keep up with this so there's not as many books to haul. You see some of them here that I have ready to haul. To keep up with it, I'm going to film it in 3 parts, one each month. So right now we have my July book haul. Now there's going to be one exception to this, that before this video you'll actually see my really big, really cheap book sale vlog haul. Because I plan on getting so many books there, and I'm filming this before that, I'm going to have that completely separately. These are just going to be my in the month regular haul, book boxes, and etc. So speaking of book boxes, I'm going to start off by talking about those. First of those we have is Fairy Loot, and I have 2 months worth because in the month of July I ended up getting Fairy Loots right after I filmed my June book haul. So I have the June books, and in that book box there were actually 2. So we have the paperback, which is absolutely gorgeous, Twin Crowns. I'm not going to talk much about the synopses because I talked about them a little bit in the unboxing videos, but I've heard really good things about this, and this is one of the most gorgeous paperbacks I have ever owned. In that same box, we had This Vicious Grace by Emily Teed, or Theed, I still don't know how to pronounce that. I've heard really good things about this one as well. This has sprayed edges that are not as clear and distinct. I'm not sure what I think about the design on it, but I still love it. And it also has unique end papers and foiling in this brown. I really like this brown, especially with the yellow. So I do like that design. And then the Fairy Loot book that I'm most excited about came in July, and that is The Darkening. I have read this one, loved it. I love pattern design on here. It's a very simple, it's got the unique end pages, and it's got a very simple design on the hardcover. So I highly recommend this debut novel. Next we have Waiting to Exhale by Terry McMillan. This came in my Blacklit box. Next we have one of the most gorgeous books I've ever received in a book box. I have to be careful how I angle this because it's so reflective. This is actually the slipcase, and the cover of the book inside is a reverse of that foiling. It is gorgeous. I don't know what I'm going to think about this book, but I hope that I will love it because of how gorgeous it is. Next we have the book that I got in the comics subscription. I loved the first one that I got. I'm not 100% sure about this one, but I eagerly anticipate getting into these different stories that I would never have heard about before. Then we have the Owl Crate. So except for those first 2 books, all of these are the July books. So then we have the July Owl Crate, and it is Violet Made of Thorns. I have not heard much about it. There's not much design difference on here. We've got some nice end papers, and we do have some foiling on the hardcover and reverse cover art. And then we have the Illumicrate. So speaking of Illumicrate, I have skipped the September Illumicrate, so there will be only 2 Illumicrate books in here. The September Illumicrate is horror, and horror is not my genre. So instead of paying for all of that, and the fandoms related in it are like horror related fandoms, so I wouldn't vibe with any of those. So I have skipped those. But this one, the Drowned Woods, it looks absolutely gorgeous. Again, I love the pattern to the stenciled sprayed edges. No end pages, but again, the foiling on the hardcover, I just love that. Those are all of my book box books. Next, there are 2 books that I got for my birthday after I filmed that haul with a lot of birthday books. These were books from my dad, and these are both books that I've already read this year and discussed in previous vlogs, so I won't talk much about those. We have The Lightning Dreamer, which is middle grades fiction, I believe. And then we have Midnight in Washington by Adam Schiff, which is obviously adult nonfiction. I read this back in January or February, I believe. It's actually one of the first political nonfiction books that I've ever gotten. And lastly, we have some books that I bought for myself, one of which is continuing on with a collection. It is the Armenian Harry Potter book 5. This is huge. It continues to make up, the spines make up one long image. I was a little worried that they wouldn't continue on with the series because it had been several years, but then I noticed that book 4 had been published in 2019, and then I realized probably because of the pandemic, they hadn't. So I actually reached out to the publisher and asked them if they'd be publishing it, and they said they were. I missed when it was actually published in June and got it in July, and I'm really excited to continue my collection. This is actually the only like language one that I'm collecting that I can't read just because of the heritage connections. And then lastly, we have 3 that I actually pre-ordered, but they were already released, but they are being released with a new cover because the 6th in the series is coming out very soon, and that is the next 3 in the Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians series. We have The Scrivener's Bones, which is book 2, The Knights of Crystallia, book 3, and The Shattered Lens, book 4. Book 5 in the new cover comes out, I believe, in September. So hopefully I'll get that then. Then book 6, I don't remember when the release date is for that. I'm actually reading these in a vlog that is going up before this video, so I'll talk more about the synopses in that vlog. Okay, so we are back for the August portion of my 3rd quarter book haul. This one's a little longer than the others, and I will explain that momentarily. First off, I am going to start with mainly my BookBox books as well as a couple pre-orders. So in a vlog where I accidentally pre-ordered this book twice. One from Amazon and one from bookshop.org. So clearly this was, I don't know which one. The bookshop.org was the more recent of those. And I clearly placed the Amazon order like last year when I first heard about it. Now I have 2 of them. I'm not donating either of them. One of them is staying in my library, one of them is going to my classroom library. Next, we have the books that I got in my Coffee and Book Club subscription. I got 2 boxes within the month of August, so I don't know if one was delayed or what. So we have one where I think they mixed up the genre I selected, and I got 2 sci-fi books. One is The Echo Wife, which is on September's TBR, so I probably, by the time you see this, will have already read this. And then I also have this gorgeous edition of War of the Worlds, which I'm definitely going to keep in my classics. I have already read it. I'm actually going to get rid of the dust jacket because the book itself, it's got that printed on there. It doesn't have the same sort of glare, and it's just gorgeous. I'm really excited about this. Not necessarily so sure about this, but really excited about it. Then the one that I got later in the month, these are both like speculative fantasy, so I'm not 100% sure about either of them, but I'll give them a try. We've got Empire of the Wild and the Porpoise. Then we have my one and only Abraxas box book because I got one of them. It's a bi-monthly subscription. It was about to end and I canceled the last one anyway, and that is Blood and Moonlight. Then we have my comics subscription, which is What's the Furthest Place from Here. Next we have my Blacklit book, and that is By the Book by Jasmine Guillory. Then we have my Call It book. This is a quarterly subscription, The Bootlegger's Mistress. We have my Goldsboro book for the month, and that is Lost in Time. I believe this is sci-fi with gorgeous sprayed edges. So in love with that. Next we have my Book of the Month book. This is historical fiction, The Bronze Drum, or just Bronze Drum. We have next from Fairy Loot, Violet Made of Thorns. I have to decide which one I'm going to keep because this is a duplicate from July. I believe the July Owl Crate was also Violet Made of Thorns. Then we have 2 books that I just unboxed and that you will probably see before this. And these are 2 books from my TBR, Tailored Book Recommendations. I am so excited about these. We've got A Magic Steeped in Poison and The Ivory Key. In that same box, I got You Always Get 3 books. Unfortunately, I am going to be unhauling this one, Ordinary Monster, simply because I have the Goldsboro version, which is absolutely gorgeous. I am a sucker for sprayed edges. And then the piece de resistance for these BookBox books. By now you have seen my video where I lose my mind when I unbox Babel in its gorgeous slipcase and the sprayed edges. So there you have my BookBox books. And now we have a bit of an unexpected haul. I was feeling a little disappointed at the lack of variety and or newer books at the really big, really cheap, really good book sale, I finally remembered all of them. Anyway, so I got a lot of older ones, a lot of nonfictions. They were things that I was looking for. And this one day, the first week of school, it was a Wednesday, I had extra time. I decided to go to a used bookstore, Second and Charles, and I spent a lot of money. I probably wouldn't have spent as much if I had stuck to just the used books. However, I have decided that I have so many editions, so many gorgeous editions of Harry Potter that I'm collecting. Harry Potter is topped only by Lord of the Rings. And I don't have all that many editions. I have a few. You can see behind me, I have Silmarillion. I have special editions of The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. I have that gorgeous illustrated Lord of the Rings. I have pre-ordered the new Bound to be Gorgeous Silmarillion. I also have the Spanish copies, but there's a lot other editions out there. Most of these were brand new. They didn't have the version I was looking for. I don't know if that version really exists anymore. I wanted to try to find the mass market paperbacks that I originally first read the story in. They didn't have any, but I'm going to still keep my eye out. I will start with the one that is a used book. I really love these versions. So this was the only one of this version that they had, and this is an older version, which is why they would be selling it used and not new. Clearly, I need to get more of these. Unfortunately, they didn't really have the full set of any of these versions, except for this one. They had the full set, except for The Hobbit that they had in there had a movie tie-in cover, and that's not a cover I'm going to be collecting. They had The Hobbit separately in this gorgeous little edition. I was not about to buy the movie tie-in. I just don't do those. They also had used movie tie-in ones for Lord of the Rings. Wasn't going to buy those. I'm also not going to buy the Rings of Power tie-in editions because Rings of Power is second age. Lord of the Rings is third age. See, Lord of the Rings nerd here. Anyway, we have The Two Towers and Return of the King. I need Fellowship of the Ring in this edition. Next, we have this absolutely gorgeous little pocket edition of The Hobbit. This is the full-size version of Two Towers, so you can see how they compare. I had to get that one. Then I got this version of The Hobbit as well. So ultimately I got more of The Hobbit than the other editions. And then I don't know if they have The Hobbit in this edition, but I'm also missing Fellowship of the Ring in this edition, which is just gorgeous. Oh, I love this. I love that boat over there in the corner. Silmarillion, Two Towers, and Return of the King. I love the designs on these. So yes, I did buy several versions of these books, and I'm not planning on stopping. The other thing that I tried to do while I was there was to get copies of the series that I need to read and complete. These are series that I've rated 4 or 5 stars, the first books of on Goodreads, and I want to complete the series. And so I figured, hey, why not, if I see it used, why not go ahead and get it? That was originally a plan for the other book haul that was disappointing. And so most of these are series. However, there were a couple of exceptions. I've heard really good things about Darius the Great is Not Okay. I also wanted to get They Called Us Enemy by George Takei. This was also new and full price, but I'm so excited. This is on my September TBR, so I've already read it by the time this is going up. Then I have these in 3 different piles. One of them is, these are books in the series, but I can't really start reading them yet because they're not in order and they're not all that I need. So we have 2 books from the Sisters Grimm series. We have The Ever After War and The Unusual Suspects. Yes, one's paperback, one's hardcover. I'm so annoyed. I was taking off their price sticker and it took away some of the backing. But then we have the Graceling series. I am missing one of them. So I have read the first one. I am missing the second one. Otherwise it would go into a different category. So I have Graceling. It's also not the same edition as the others, but I don't care. And then we have Bitter Blue and Winterkeep. And so yes, this is in hardback. This is in paperback. The other one is not in the same edition. There are 4 books to this series. I just need to look out for Fire, which is book 2 in the series. And I'm keeping them in those piles because they're going to go over to my growing TBR pile in front of my TBR cart. The next stack are ones where I either am going to start the series or they are first and second books in the series, but they are not all that I need to read in the series. So I could pick these up. I just wouldn't be able to complete the series yet. The first of those is Flame in the Mist by Renee Ahdieh. This is the first of a duology, and it's also an autographed copy, which I found really cool. I really enjoyed her Wrath of the Dawn duology, so I just need the other book in this duology, which unfortunately they didn't have, but I can go ahead and start this, although technically I'd be starting a series. And then this one I have read. This is Cinder. I did not own it. I enjoyed it, so now I want to add it to my collection, but I was also able to get Scarlet. However, I was not able to get the other books in the series, hence this pile. Then we have Rebecca Roanhorse's Race to the Sun, which is the first in this Rick Riordan imprints book, which I want to read and collect more of the Rick Riordan imprints. I think he's doing a great job with that imprint. And then of course, because I love Six Crimson Cranes and The Dragon's Promise so much, I had to get Spin the Dawn. I saw Spin the Dawn, I'm like, yes, I need this. But I also need Unravel the Dusk because this is a duology and I don't have all of it. That's the second pile. The last one is a 2 completed series where I just needed, I have the rest of the books that I need in the series. I'm a little unsure about some of them from what I've heard about other books in the series, but I did rate the first book pretty high. First off, we have the Maze Runner series. We have The Kill Order, which is actually a prequel. I don't know what order I'm going to read it in. Then we have The Scorched Trials and The Death Cure. So that's the entire series. I could binge those and finish those. Yes, I'm getting prepped for future Final Book Support Group ones. And then we have The Fifth Wave. I do own The Fifth Wave. However, it is in my classroom library, so I didn't need to get that one. I believe I also own The Maze Runner. I'll have to check on that. And so I have the second book, The Infinite Sea, and the third book, The Last Star. Yes, they had lots of different copies of these and I wanted to get them in the same copy, same format. However, used books, or you do what you can do. I have added a lot of books to my TBR pile recently. I might need to expand my TBR cart into TBR shelves because I'm going to give you a quick pan around of all of the books that I have. And that does not include the September TBR, the specific September TBR that is out there in the other room. We have this pile right here, which is BookBox books for the most part. We have these piles over here, which is the really big, really cheap, really good book sale. And then right here, we have upside down all of the Lord of the Rings ones. Technically, these aren't TBR because obviously I've read them many times and they're going to go directly on the shelf. We have Darius the Great is Not Okay, right down here. And then we have the 1, 2, 3 piles there. This is not a TBR. That is saved for a wrap up. My book buying habits have been reignited. Stay tuned for part 3 of this third quarter book haul. I am trying to do better, so we'll see if the only books that I have in September are the BookBox books and any pre-orders that come in. I do have plans. I'm going to hint now. I have plans for how I'm going to handle my book buying impulses in the future. And now for part 3 of my third quarter book haul. Yes, I am wearing a hoodie in September in the South. I am trying to manifest cooler weather. We started to get a little bit of it, but then temperatures reached 90 degrees yesterday. Sometimes, many times, especially when the weather reaches 90 degrees, I question why I live in the South. Anyway, that tangent aside, I did much better on the book haul front for third quarter. I did not buy any extra books. I have my BookBox books. I have a few pre-orders that came in. Well, I will say I did buy 1 set and I will show you that. And then I do have an ARC. So we will start off with the shorter pile, which is my pre-orders, the 1 set that I bought for myself and the ARC. So first off, I have an ARC that I received from Library Thing. It is a memoir, Muddy People, A Muslim Coming of Age. I'm really intrigued. I have a soft spot for memoirs because you are hearing that person's own story. And the more that you hear a person's story, the more you learn about these different experiences and how life is. Now we get to the 1 set that I bought for myself. I bought another Lord of the Rings set. I knew that I wanted this because this is, and I thought it was mass market, but it's a different sizing than mass market editions because this was the edition that I first read Lord of the Rings in. And I had no idea what it was. So my friend had it and I was really good friends with her in 4th grade And then in 5th grade, she ended up going to a different school and I lost touch. But I had borrowed the books. Yes, I borrowed the books in 4th grade. I didn't read them and I didn't read them until 7th grade. But I had borrowed the books and then we lost touch and I accidentally ended up keeping them. Oops. And finally, when I got to high school and I had my own job, I got my own version of it. I used a whole paycheck on it. I've talked about it before. It's the waterlogged one right here. Like, these covers are hideous. I'm going to get rid of them. As I decided to get all of the versions, I thought, I really want this set. And I can tell that it was red. And it was read by someone who probably wasn't a fan, because if you'll notice the order that they put them back in, those are in the wrong order. Yeah, I left them that way for the filming, but of course, I can't leave them that way permanently. So I'm actually going to pull all of them out to show you. I mean, these covers are so typically 90s and they embody why I strayed away from fantasy, even though it's my favorite genre. So we have The Hobbit. I'm sorry, look at the interpretations of Bilbo and Gollum. Gollum looks like a creepy robot. Okay, so we have The Hobbit. I did not read The Hobbit in this version. I don't know how I was first exposed to The Hobbit, but I didn't read it in that edition. Then we have The Fellowship of the Rings. This was the one that helped me find it. I actually purchased this off A-Books. The sizing proportions is off because Gandalf should be significantly taller than Frodo, but then we have The Two Towers. So look at the picturing of the characters with Legolas and Gimli on there. I'm sorry, it's just so funny. I'm never gonna read these versions. This one is the least offensive, but Aragorn looks like he has like angel wings on his head. What is it, Hermes and the winged sandals only on his head? That was a nostalgia buy. I found it and I'm like, these are out of print. You can't really find them a lot of different places. And when I found the whole set, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and buy that. Now for the pre-orders. First of those, The Dragon's Promise, which I read as an ARC, gave 5 stars, immediately pre-ordered it. Now I have it. Oh, I forgot, this was not a pre-order. This was a separate purchase, but because I got it as an ARC, but did not download it before it was archived on NetGalley, but I still want to be able to give a review of it. Plus, it's illustrated by an Armenian. This is Wingbearer by Marjorie Liu. And then one, so you probably, if you're a BookTube watcher, have heard about the hullabaloo about Barnes & Noble not giving hardcover prints or shelf space to a lot of middle grade and YA authors, only the top ones. And so a lot of people, including Kelly Yang, didn't get shelf space. I won't go into that here, but I saw a lot of different like slide decks and things that were put on Instagram stories and things like that. And it included one that I have an ARC of and am really intrigued by. So I did go ahead and pre-order it to support the author, and I pre-ordered it on bookshop.org, and that is Ibeliz Explains It All. This is a novel in verse, and a little bit about this. I'm really excited about this. She's starting middle school, and she's really nervous because she's just moved from Puerto Rico. So this is actually really timely with the hurricane that just hit Puerto Rico, well, a little bit ago, considering when this is going to go up. It's a coming of age tale, and it's told in verse, and I love how it's printed. The pages look like they're notebook pages. So I'm really excited to read this. The last section are the BookBox books. So I will just briefly hold it up, mention it, maybe say something about it, but I won't go in depth on what the story is about because I talked about that in my unboxing. So first we have the 2 books from the My Coffee and Book Club. This one I'm more excited about just because the cover design draws me in more, and that is Gifting Fire by Elena Boyden. This one, the cover does not draw me in. This is not something I would have even picked up to read the synopsis, but I will give it a try. I want to stretch my reading taste, and that is Earth Eater by Dolores Reyes. This is more magical realism, and I am learning that I really love magical realism in the Latinx setting, which is what this is. Then we have my book of the month pick for this month, and that is Other Birds by Sarah Addison Allen. This also, I believe, is magical realism, so I'm excited to get to this. And I did hear that they have their little book of the month. Yeah, I didn't even realize that, but they have their little book of the month imprint on the book itself. Next we have Far Sector by N.K. Jemisin. This was not the monthly pick, by comics. However, they do this really cool thing where they send out a newsletter with the upcoming pick in it, and if you find that you are not interested in that pick or you would prefer something else, if you email fairly quickly, is a quick turnaround with a different selection or choice from any of their previous month's picks or any of their stock at a certain price point or less, they'll switch it out for you. And so I did. Quick reply, and I got Far Sector. I'm really excited to read this. This will probably be my first N.K. Jemisin book. And then lastly, the one that I'm really excited about for the design. I'm a little nervous about the book itself because I don't know how I feel about Gothic literature. I love Jane Eyre. I really, really like Jane Eyre. I detest Wuthering Heights. So I don't have a really good range of reading experience with Gothic literature, so we will see. But that is Belladonna. This was the Fairy Loot book. I did skip Illumicrate, which is why that's not in here, but this is the Fairy Loot book for September. The design on this is fabulous. I love the coloring that they chose. And the thing that I love, it feels like, and I can't obviously convey other than in word what it feels like, but it feels like those old books you find in the library, so it totally fits the Gothic vibe, but it is printed on the cover. So, hands down, this is one of the favorite books that I have ever gotten from Fairy Loot. Ending my book haul on a high note. I have no idea how many books total this is for the third quarter. I hope to have my book hauls in a little bit more reasonable manner. I probably will combine my new book buying bingo with my book hauls. In that video, I talked about possibly combining it with my wrap-ups. Not going to do that, but I might mention how many I've earned. But I will probably combine it with my book hauls because that would make more sense. So there we have it. There is 3/4 of book buying. You can tell that the stress of going back to school in August put me in a book buying mood. And it was bookended by a little bit of birthday in July and more reason and coming to my senses in September. Thanks so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next one.